Emily grumbled as the alarm clock blared. She shut it off with a sigh, trying to cling to the fading memories of a dream she wished had been real. Climbing out of bed, she carefully arranged her stuffed animals and tidied her bed, speaking to them as if they were alive. In her imagination, each had its own personality. Every day, she spent time playing and talking to them. "There you go, Eeyore," she said, placing the stuffed donkey between Lionheart and Boots, her kitten. Her job as a meter maid was challenging, compounded by the fact that she was transgender. Dealing with angry, often hostile drivers who received tickets and being misread by people made her job even harder. This hostility fueled the frustration of those irritated by the pink tickets she issued. Her days were split between meter reading and sleeping, with limited time for the library to chat with friends online and scavenge for food. She disliked her job, partly because it provoked so much negativity, but also because jobs that allowed her to dress as a woman and didn't require formal education were scarce. She lived paycheck to paycheck, with no luxuries. Emily was generally gentle and did her best at work. To escape her harsh reality, she often retreated into a dream world where she was a little girl, though her inner child rarely had a chance to play. The adult part of her worried that her magical inner child might fade away from neglect. One windy day, as she was halfway through her route, she saw an older woman lose her groceries to the relentless wind. No one was helping as the food scattered across the sidewalk. A box of cereal blew toward Emily's feet. She stopped it with her foot, picked it up, and helped the woman chase after the other items, which seemed to elude her grasp at the last moment, draining her energy. Determined, Emily continued helping the woman despite the struggle. Out of breath, she finally returned the last of her groceries. "Thank you, my dear," the woman said, her gaze penetrating. "You needn't have gone through so much trouble," she added, briefly holding Emily's hand before she smiled and released it. As Emily turned to leave, the woman added cryptically, "You will be tested once more before your dreams are fulfilled." Puzzled, Emily continued her work. She soon encountered a car with an expired meter. Seeing her mark on the front wheel, she prepared to issue a ticket. As she bent down, she noticed a shiny coin on the ground. She picked it up, contemplating whether to use it for a treat or to benefit the car owner. Without hesitation, she tried to insert the coin into the meter, but it resisted as if it were alive. Sighing, she used another coin from her purse. Unbeknownst to her, the original coin had changed from silver to gold and now bore the inscription, "Good for one wish." After spending time helping the woman with her groceries, Emily had to skip her usual afternoon break to finish her route on time. Sighing, she pushed on, eager to reach the library and visit a chat room she frequented whenever she could. In that space, she could indulge her fantasy of being a 5-year-old girl, a role she missed out on in real life. Her virtual mother and sister, who interacted as if they were children themselves, provided the affection she lacked and helped her fend off darker thoughts. When Emily arrived at the library, she was dismayed to find that her chat room had been classified as porn and was now restricted. Tears of frustration filled her eyes. This was her only refuge from the monotony of daily life. Checking her email, she found messages from her mother and sister, which she eagerly read and responded to. There was also an email with part of a story from her auntie in New Zealand. Emily downloaded it onto a floppy disk for later reading on her old, offline computer and sent a thank you reply just as the library was closing. Disappointed at not being able to chat with Ava, her virtual mother, Emily headed home. Ava, a self-proclaimed witch like Zoe, always promised that Emily would get her wish. After making dinner, Emily decided to draft some letters on her computer to upload and send from the library next time. As she sat down, she felt something poking her from her pocket, the coin she had found earlier. She pulled it out and noticed its gold hue. "Wow! It's turned gold," she exclaimed, examining it closely. "Good for one wish? I wonder if it's true." Emily knew magic coins didn't exist outside of stories, but a small part of her hoped otherwise. She thought of her dream where she was a 5-year-old girl living with Ava. As she prepared to make a wish, she hesitated. She didn't want to make a wish that could affect others without their permission. A thought struck her. Ava and Zoe had often wished their magic was real. Instead of wishing for herself, she decided to wish that Ava and Zoe truly had witchly powers. As Emily focused on her wish, she felt the coin warm in her hand and heard a faint, satisfied voice in her head, "Your wishes are done and done." Strange, that sounded like the woman I helped today, Emily thought as she examined the coin in her hand. Wow! It's turned back into a silver $50, she exclaimed in surprise. I hope that means my wish worked. Meanwhile, in Texas and New York, the coin's magic was awakening within Zoe and Ava, filling them with the knowledge and ability to perform real magic that had been dormant for ages. If anyone had been at Stonehenge or other ancient magical sites, they might have seen an aura flickering around the ruins before streaming towards America. Streams of magic from Egypt, Easter Island, and other historical centers had converged on Ava and Zoe. When they woke, both Ava and Zoe felt a profound change. Zoe was the first to wake, sensing the power within her and feeling a connection to someone she knew, Ava. Concentrating, she reached out and contacted her sister. Zoe! What's up? Let me guess, you've got the power too? Ava responded, feeling the magic surge through her. Ava also sensed the source of their newfound power, Emily. She could tell that Zoe was hesitant, unlike Ava, who felt destined for this moment and knew exactly what to do. Emily wished on a coin for us to become witches, Ava said. But magic, Zoe began, doesn't exist? Ava finished, laughing softly. She cast a few spells to transform her body into the female form she had always dreamed of. Go ahead, sis, make yourself a genetic woman like I just did. I can sense your desire from here. I'm going to surprise Emily when she wakes up. Actually, I'm going to wake her up with a hug. Want to join me? She prepared her transport spell. Sure. Let me just change first, Zoe replied, feeling a delightful sense of exhilaration as she completed her transformation. Once done, she felt more in tune with the magic. Finding the transport spell in her mind, Zoe and Ava appeared in Emily's bedroom simultaneously. The spell placed Zoe beside Ava, as they couldn't occupy the same space. Zoe smiled as she saw Ava, who was dressed in a cream-colored silk robe with iridescent threads. Zoe looked down at her blouse and jeans and sighed. Raising her arms, she chanted a spell. As she lowered her hands, her clothes transformed into a similar robe in buttercup yellow. The change was swift. They turned to Emily, who was clutching a stuffed animal. Ava moved forward, giving Zoe a nod. As Ava touched Emily, she stirred and opened her eyes, momentarily startled by the sight of two figures beside her bed. But as Ava's soothing voice reached her, Emily began to calm down. Hello, my daughter. We have much to discuss, Ava greeted as she entered the room. Mama? Emily gasped, then looked at the other figure. Auntie Zoe, you're here too? She rubbed her eyes in disbelief. You wished for us to become real witches? Zoe asked gently, sitting on the edge of the bed. Yes, Emily said, I found this coin that said it was good for one wish. I wanted to wish for my dream to come true, but then I thought if you were real witches, you could help more people with magic. That seemed more important than my own dream. I know what your dream is, Emily, Ava whispered, hugging her tightly. You want to be my 5-year-old daughter and experience everything you missed growing up as a girl. Emily's eyes widened with anticipation, her heart racing. You're wondering if your dream is still possible. Well, let me ask you this, do you truly want to be my daughter and let me give you the love you missed out on? Oh, Mama, yes. Emily cried, wrapping her arms around Ava. All right then, let's begin. Ava lifted Emily from the bed and motioned for Zoe to take Emily's other hand, forming a circle. Ava clasped Zoe's free hand. Zoe felt the chant enter her mind and recited it in unison with Ava, opening herself to the magic. Emily felt a rush of energy as the magic flowed through her. Her body seemed to shed its years and change as her form grew smaller. She felt her previous self diminishing, her height decreasing until she had to stretch to keep holding on to her mama and auntie's hands. Finally, the transformation was complete, her nightie now pulled around her feet like a silken mass. Released from the circle, Emily looked at herself and giggled in a high-pitched childlike voice. "Mama, I'm little," she squeaked, running her hands over her new body. Though her speech was awkward, she didn't mind, as she retained all her past knowledge. In her excitement, Emily didn't notice the room had changed, she was no longer in her old place. "Yes, you are," Ava confirmed, lifting Emily effortlessly into her arms and placing a soft kiss on her forehead. "Where are we?" Emily asked, seeing the room from her new vantage point. "Where you belong, honey, with me in my home." "I hope you like your new bedroom, my Baruka," Ava explained. "Oh, it's just wonderful, Mama, and..." "Yes!" Emily exclaimed as she saw her stuffed animals and dolls neatly piled on the bed. She wriggled out of Ava's arms and ran to gather her friends. "My friends came too," she squealed with joy. "Of course, honey. Did you think we'd forget them?" Zoe chided gently. Emily tried to run to Zoe for a hug, but her overly long nightie tangled her legs, causing her to almost trip. A quick flick of Ava's finger used a levitation spell to prevent her from falling. Emily floated over to Zoe, who caught her for a warm embrace. Emily's nightie shrank to a more suitable size as Ava used her magic to adjust it. "You seem to be adapting well to having magic at your fingertips, sister," Zoe remarked, looking at Ava in awe. "It's funny you should say that," Ava replied. "After all, you had more power with your psychic abilities before than I did. I've always been the witch of the chat room. Maybe it's because I was a witch without power that I knew how the spells should work, it just needed the magic to make it happen." Ava shrugged with a smile. "Speaking of chat rooms, I think it's time for a meeting of the minds," Zoe suggested. "Indeed, this should be quite interesting," Ava replied with a mischievous glint in her eye. "Oh, I think so too, especially with that look in your eyes," Zoe laughed, her excitement growing with the prospect of their news. "Mama? Will I get to see Auntie Faye and her hair-munching moose?" Emily asked, her 5-year-old self still enchanted by the whimsical creature she'd always imagined during chat room visits. In her imagination, Faye's muse was a moose with a peculiar habit of chewing hair while whispering secrets in Faye's ear. "I think so, kitten. She should be around for another hour or so," Zoe replied. The three held hands once more, and in an instant, they found themselves in a room with a large, circular pink couch. A round table in the center was laden with an array of food and drinks. Emily eagerly bounced between Ava and Zoe as others began to appear one by one. First, there was just the three of them, then a brunette materialized, sporting a magically applied name tag on her blouse. Emily immediately recognized her Auntie Faye from New Zealand. Emily squealed and dashed to her astonished aunt, leaping onto her lap and hugging her tightly. As she did, Emily noticed the fuzzy moose head peeking out from under Faye's hair. Giggles erupted as Emily scooped up the mystical moose and perched it on her shoulder, attempting to share everything in one breathless sentence. "Whoa, slow down, kitten," Faye said, raising an eyebrow at Ava for clarification. "Let me get this straight, you found a magic coin, wished on it, and now both Zoe and Ava are real witches, which is how I'm here." "Wherever here is?" "Yep, Auntie Faye, you got it right the first time," Emily beamed, proud that her rapid-fire explanation was understood. "Here is a pocket in time where everyone can meet in the form they've chosen," Ava explained. "No time will pass in the real world until you choose to return." More people began to appear in the room. Sarah, Rachel, Nora, Tom, and Sam were just the first of many, all amazed to see each other in person, even if it was a manifestation of their minds and self-perceptions. The room buzzed with explanations and emotional reunions, as no time passed in the real world. Some, like Nora, chose to appear as children due to her mother-daughter dynamic with Zoe in the chat room. Tears and hugs flowed freely as everyone finally met face to face. The excitement reached a peak when Ava called for silence. I'm going to make a once-in-a-lifetime offer, she announced as the room hushed. Anyone who wishes to keep their chosen form can do so. For those like Natalie, Miranda, Sam, and Tom who have health issues, those will be resolved regardless. All you need to do is visualize what you want and log in tomorrow. If things aren't exactly as you desire, you can make adjustments. Stuck is not an option, unlike some stories you might have read. A wave of chatter erupted as the implications sank in. Ava was bombarded with questions about needing new identities and how their parents and friends would fit into their new lives. She explained that reality would adjust to accommodate the discrepancies, and they could choose who knew about both realities. Additionally, Ava assured them that any particularly unpleasant memories they wished to alter could be changed, though a complete memory rewrite would not be allowed. As people in the real world logged into the chat room and saw others online, a message from Ava Shalimar appeared, inviting them to join the party. Those who accepted the invitation materialized among the group and were given the same choices. After several hours, many chose to leave, eager to start their new lives, but promising to stay in touch to share their experiences. Zoe suggested that each person could write and post their own stories about how their lives had changed. Ava remained in the room she had created, welcoming latecomers from across the globe, while Zoe and Faye took Emily to bed. It was a touching moment, as they could finally tuck her in for real and offer the first of many hugs that had previously been only virtual. Zoe gave Faye the ability to transport herself and her moose to wherever Ava or Zoe were at any time. This meant she could visit Emily and her mama or Zoe and Nora, who had decided to become Zoe's daughter, whenever she wished. Zoe also provided a linking spell so that Faye could sense when she was needed or invited over. That night, for the first time, Emily's dreams were no longer filled with her old fantasies. Instead, she dreamed of growing up with Ava, Nora, and Zoe. When she awoke the next morning, she wondered if the previous day had been real or just a vivid dream. She lay still, hoping that when she opened her eyes, she would find herself in the beautiful room Ava had created for her, rather than her old room. She cautiously opened one eye and, holding her breath, checked the room. Yes! The end, or perhaps the beginning. This story is dedicated to a wonderful person I've come to know and love. May all your dreams come true, Emily O'Malley.